Hi, I'm Mike Brandl from the University of Texas at Austin. Unless you've been living under a rock over the last few months, you realize that gasoline and energy prices are going up and up and up. And the news media, the business press, full of pundits complaining about this situation and blaming everyone from oil executives to speculators in the market. We even have politicians in Washington or on the campaign trail arguing that they're going to do something about these high gasoline prices. But as usual, the actual story is a lot more complex and a lot more complicated than that. As a recent story in The Economist pointed out, blaming the speculators for increasing gasoline and oil prices is probably putting the blame in the wrong place. Instead, it goes back to the fundamental ideas of supply and demand. Well, let's take a look at those issues of supply and demand. First, on the demand side. As economic systems grow and expand, they need more energy. That's exactly what's happening in the US and in Europe. This is also true now with the developing countries. As places like India, China, Latin America continue to grow and expand, they're going to need more and more oil. What makes this a bigger problem is in some of these countries, the price of gasoline and diesel fuel is controlled by the government. So thus what's happening is as the world price for gas and diesel is increasing, that price is not being passed along to their consumers and their businesses. For example, it's been estimated that businesses and consumers in China are paying a price 40% below what the world price should dictate. So when prices are held artificially low, guess what happens? The level of consumption is very, very high. So even going forward, even as the world price of oil continues to increase, we'll see that the demand coming from those developing countries is going to continue to increase at a very, very rapid rate. So world demand is going up, but world supply is relatively constrained. It's very difficult to figure out just what exactly are the reserves for oil, especially in the OPEC countries. So some of the pundits argue, we should explore more in the US and drill for oil here. Well, that's not as easy as it sounds either. When you actually look at the economics of drilling oil here in the US or up in the Arctic, it gets very, very expensive. And we've seen this before. In the mid-1970s, there was a big push to expand oil production here in the US. But then as oil prices dropped, those same people who ran out to explore for more oil suffered huge losses. So it's been estimated that to try to increase production in North America is profitable only if oil prices are somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $90 to $100 a barrel. But if oil prices moderate, or if those exploration costs turn out to be higher than expected, you could wind up seeing massive losses as people run out to try to drill for more oil domestically. So what then is the answer? Well, the answer goes back to supply and demand. As the world demand continues to increase and supply is constrained, oil prices are probably going to continue to go up and up and up. And for every action, there are many, many reactions. So what are going to be the reactions of these higher and higher energy prices in the United States? Will it tank the US economy, as some pundits argue? Well, probably not. The OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, just this week put out their semi-annual forecast of what they think is going to happen to economic growth. What they said is, what they believe is going to happen, is that the US economy will remain flat for 2008, but under certain assumptions that they think are valid, they see that the US economy will grow and expand rather rapidly in 2009 with very little inflationary pressures. The assumptions that they're making hinge on issues dealing with the subprime lending crisis, the mortgage market and so on, moderating and those problems not continuing to increase. And they also see that energy prices will probably remain at the level where they are today and not continue their rapid increase. So it probably won't result in a massive collapse of the US economy, nor does it call for dramatic change in a lot of governmental policies. But what will happen is prices will probably continue to remain relatively high. So if you're finding it difficult to put gasoline in that Suburban or that Escalade, well, then maybe you should stop doing that. And think deeper about what are these reactions going to be throughout the rest of our economic system. Perhaps a new phrase we'll have to learn is, was that you I saw in that new Vespa? Until next time, I'm Mike Brandl from the University of Texas at Austin.